the channel. Let's get into it, man. This is part two of the rise and fall of the black British R&B groups. This is part two. This is about loose ends. Yesterday I did one on 5 Star. Now today's gonna be about loose ends, man. This is a great group. They made several hit records throughout the 80s into the early 90s. They're a British R&B band, very unique like no other. The trio formed in London in 1980, comprised of vocalist, guitarist Carl McIntyre, vocalist James Jean, the female that was in the group, and keyboard player and vocalist Steve Nickel. I'm saying this group definitely dominated the landscape of R&B like no other, man. They definitely handled their business as a very unique British group coming from where they came from and made an impact, man. You can make a case they was just as good, if not better than the American black groups at the time, like New Edition and Cameo, Ready for the World. Groups like that was doing it at the time. The Deal, Babyface. I think LA was in that group. There was a lot of groups, Lance Star. I mean, there were a lot of bands and groups that were doing it, but you can make a case what they were doing just as good, if not better. They had their own sound that was unique, and they just dominated. Unfortunately, they broke up. Steve Nickel and James Jean, they left the group in 1990 due to personal differences, despite all the success that they had throughout the 80s. So they signed with Virgin Records in 1981 under the name Loose End. Some of their debut material was written for them by Chris Amu and Eddie Amu. Achieved UK single success in the 70s with their group The Real Thing. Looking at it right now. I've heard this group. This is a soul group that was formed in the 70s, all black group. I mean, so You, To Me, Are Everything. And that was #1 in the charts. So they had success with a string of British hits. Can't Get By Without You. Can You Feel the Force? So they were making their mark in England as the most successful black rock soul act in England in the 70s. So they definitely made their mark on loose ends. Before loose ends, it was this group that was doing it, making it happen, writing the music for loose ends and things of that nature. So the trio changed their name to Loose Ends in 1983 and continued to record for Virgin, and they were distributed in the US by MCA Records. This was 14 people that are tuning in. The group was founded by Steve Nickel after he left the London Guildhall School of Music and Drama. Nickel went on tour with the Jam in 1982 as a trumpet, trombone, keyboard player. Together, the trio achieved their first success with Hanging on the String, Contemplating in 1985, which reached number 13 in the British chart. Hanging on the String also was #1 on the US Billboard R&B chart, and it made Loose Ends the first African British band to top that chart. So they made some history. That's what made this group so unique and what they were doing in the 80s. So they reached number 16 with the single Magic Touch the same year. The disc was produced in the US, as was their 1986 hit Slow Down. They used as the theme music for Canadian Much Music Soul in the City program. At this time, Carl McIntyre arranged and played on a number of tracks from 5 Star's debut album, including the single Let Me Be the One, which reached #2 in the same listings later in 1986. In spite of subsequent failing sales, the trio notched their first final transatlantic hit in 1988 with Watching You, Watching Me. The group's lineup changed in 1990 due to differences in its proposed musical direction. Eugene Nickel decided to leave and was replaced by Linda Carrier and Sune Suleiman. Look How Long turned out to be the final studio album released under the Loose Ends name, features their final hit single, Don't Be a Fool. So despite the departure of Eugene Nickel, they continue to make hit records. Michael Thomas went on to work behind the recording desk, the new members, and has continued to do so to this day. producing several artists like Karen Wheeler and Ruth Joy and Quasi. Original lineup called McIntosh and Jane Eugene was able to briefly reunite. Now, 1998, I remember this song, Take Your Time, from Pete Rock's debut album, Soul Survivor, which was released as a single the following year. All three also appeared in the music video for the song. So, shout out to Pete Rock for being together. But this group was definitely an all-time great group. They had their, rise and fall. I was looking at, their third album that they made in 1986. This is the 40th anniversary of this album that came out last month in May 7th. Slow Down, Stay a Little Wild Child, and two others, all of which were hits on the US R&B charts. And Slow Down was the number one hit on the charts. And between the years of 1991 and 2009, the album sold additional 303,000 copies in the United States, according to Nielsen SoundScan. 5 years after its initial release, the album remains uncertified with overall sales unknown. Stay a Little Wild Child, man. That was a great record. Matter of fact, the single off the Zagora album in 1986 was released this month in 1986. That was 4 years ago. Esau Was Gonna Make You Mine. Yeah, they had some great moments, man, as a trio. But they had their rise and fall. See, they didn't have the same success, obviously, moving forward. This song, Slow Down, that was released on September 22nd, 1986. And September 24th, 1986, in UK, September 22nd, 1986, and in the US, September 24th, 1986. And this single, The Slow Down, was the group's second and last number one hit song on the Soul Singles chart. So this group just had the Midas touch, man. Riding that wave with the British groups that was dominating everything. 5 Star, talked about them yesterday. Now Loose Ends. This is one of the great groups of all time, man. They're just underrated to me. I remember these videos on Video Music Box, Video Soul, Video LP. They were doing it, and that was something that was a new phenomenon. Seeing a British group make their mark, somewhat coming from another country, that was unheard of, and hold their own with the groups that was out at the time. It's just that it didn't last long. They came out in '84 with their Little Spice. So Where Are You? Zagora, The Real Chucky Boo, Look How Long, and that's it. They only made 5 albums. That's it. But their biggest song, I think, to me, is Hanging on the String. That's their trademark song right there. You could say Slow Down. You could say Stay a Little Wild Child. This is their signature song. Because this song, Hanging on the String, made them the first British band to ever top that chart from overseas to do something like this. So when you have that going on, that means you're doing something different outside the UK. The single went to number 1 on the US Billboard R&B chart for 1 week. They're the first British band to ever top that chart. Now, this song came out, released in February 23rd, 1985. This was a classic, man, masterpiece. Their signature record. It's a unique sound. Listen to this album. Listen to this song. This group. They had 2 number 1 hits, Hanging on the String, Slow Down. Watching You was number 2 on the charts. Don't Be a Fool was a top 10 record. Stay a Little Wild, man. It should have did more, did better than it did. It was number 18 on the charts. But Slow Down was the one that hit. You know what I'm saying? Don't Be a Fool, that was number 10, that was last top 10 hit. So they had their peak, they had their valleys, they had their rise and their fall. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I gotta say about that. So this is just a short video about loose ends from this 3-part series that I'm gonna be doing part 3 tomorrow. Be about soul to soul. Look at their discography, their body of work, because they won all-time greats as well at that time. Jazzy B, the things that they were doing coming from overseas. So we're gonna get into that tomorrow. So this is part 2 of the rise and fall of the Black British R&B groups. Loose ends, part 2. This concludes this part 2 of that. I'll be doing part 3 tomorrow on Soul to Soul. So until then, talk to you soon.